Hi everyone, back with another chess video. Today we're going to be doing a review of a rapid game that I played. We're going to be analyzing it. It was a pretty high accuracy game, so I wanted to use it as an example of just good, solid chess play. So we're playing as white. It is going to be an e4 opening like I normally do. It's going to end up being a two knights Italian. So I play e4, responds with e5, knight f3, knight c6, just standard opening, developing your pieces. Bishop out. This is a pretty good spot to develop your bishop. This is pretty typical for playing the Italian. Bishop b5, the Ruy Lopez. Game continues. Knight f6. Some people do d6. It's also a fine move. Preparing for bishop here, or possibly bishop there, depending on where they want to develop their pieces. Knight often comes there. Downside about the immediate d6 is it blocks in this dark squared bishop. People often respond just getting their dark squared bishop out and then say I support there, and then playing d6, getting your light squared bishop out and having your dark squared bishop on the outside of the pawn chain. That is definitely a move. As we go back, the game, knight f6. I respond with d3, just supporting that pawn in the center. Continuing on, the immediate d5, this is a move. It's a bit worse for white to do the immediate d5 without developing your bishop and castling first. So for this, I simply take. Let's see if we can get... All right, so I take. He takes back with the knight, and white is very slightly better. Really, it's about even. And then here, I believe I have my first mistake, or just not the optimal move. Knight here, knight d2 is not the best move. Engine really wants just castles for white, just simply castles. My thinking was I'm going to reroute my knight, as is just pretty common with the Italian. So that is what I was initially thinking. Even if knight comes there, I can just castle. He develops his light squared bishop, and it's just a normal developing move, supporting the knight in the center. Nothing too crazy there. And then I'm actually just going to pause for just... All right, we're back. I just wanted to fix this board quick, get the colors right. So bishop out, supporting the knight in the center. Knight can come back in some instances, and you can exchange bishops there. Normally, they will develop their dark squared bishop. Let's just say it's way to move. Let's just say castles, dark squared bishop. Can go there, back, and then stay there. Castles. Knight can come back in some instances, but getting a little bit kind of off topic. So knight f1 was my move, just looking to reroute it here, which is a pretty common idea in the Italian. Here I'm a little bit worse. It's giving -1, but I think it's really about even. I think it's just a little bit slow. E1, bishop develops to a pretty passive square. This is definitely a mistake, because you would rather have your bishop on one of these squares, or even there. Here, it's just not really controlling anything. It's not really developing anywhere to control good squares. So just a really slow move. Gives me a tempo to get my knight to a better spot. And then just castles, castles. It's really about even. Giving him more time to catch up. It's just even right now. My two knights here, this is really a pretty typical developing spot for the Italian game. This knight can go back, but this dark squared bishop is just really not doing anything. So the opponent's really just developing pretty passively right now. As I'm playing this game, I'm thinking about bringing rook e1 queen d2 and kind of piling up pressure on the e-file and specifically on this weak pawn here. That's kind of what my game plan is. So the immediate f5, really not the best move. The engine, let's see what the engine wants. The engine wants, yeah, just knight f4, just knight back. Go back up. Oh no, it wants bishop takes e6. Oh no. Okay, it's catching up. Yeah, knight f4. Yeah, it just wants knight f4, and then bishop takes, and that's a pretty typical kind of way to go about the Italian game. They do end up with this, black ends up with these double pawns, but they're not that big of a liability. They are a liability, but they're not that big. Let's go back to the game. f5 was played. I was right. f5 was played. Probably eventually looking to either push here and kick my knight away. I wasn't too worried because I do have this pretty juicy square in the center on e4. Could also push here, but again, I'm just not worried because takes, and my knight recaptures. Sure, he can end up pinning my f3 knight, but I'm really just not worried about it. There's just really no teeth to it. So rook e1, just looking to pile up on this center pawn right there. Bishop here, I'm not exactly sure what he was thinking because it just is a pretty passive move. I think that's what the engine was wanting, but really yeah, really a passive move, not really going anywhere. In the game, I immediately saw knight h5. Bishop could go there. Bishop can't go there. Really no point in going there because I can just take, queen takes, and then I can still just pile up on this center pawn right there. So I was thinking knight h5, just kicking the bishop back. He plays g6, trying to support this pawn right here, but that wasn't really even a target of mine. Once now it just weakens his dark squares in his king side even more. So once I trade off my knight for this bishop, the dark squares around the king are just gonna be so weak. So a really poor decision to push g6 by my opponent. So I do exchange. As I sit here in the game, I was looking at bishop g5, bishop h6 ideas, just because the queen and the rook are pretty vulnerable on those squares. And again, just putting my queen here and piling up. Now that the rooks are connected, it's pretty easy for my opponent to get his rooks to the center files to support those pawns. So I was aware of it, wasn't really too worried about where my opponent was going in the immediate because I just didn't think he had any obvious threats. The engine does like bishop g5, but in the game, I play that and moves his queen back, so it's not like it's a crazy, obvious threat or a crazy, one move threat that just wins a piece or anything. But it just gets my bishop to a really good square. So the center pawn that I was after does actually become a bit vulnerable once the queen goes back because it only has this one defender. I take with the knight. He takes back. I take it with the rook. Now my rook and bishop are kind of out in the center. Bishop doesn't really have anything that's going to be attacking it right now because if he goes h6, I can just take it, and the knight can't hop back to any squares that can immediately attack it. This rook being in the center, I didn't love it, so I knew I was going to have to either pull it back or get my queen out and support it with the other rook. So, um, plays a good idea of just supporting the center with his other rook, but it's really a bit of a mistake because so the engine likes rook f to e8, but it's really a poor place. It's poor developing for black to go rook a to e8 because the f rook is just trapped. And during the game, that's exactly what I play. I take a second, I spot that tactic that rook is completely trapped by its fellow pieces. So just clean winning in exchange. That's all that is. I pile up on the center file because this knight really isn't going anywhere. And as soon as it does, I could take with check and then take this rook. Even though it can be recaptured depending on where the knight goes, or it's just I'm up material right now. I'm up in exchange. So my thinking is kind of trading down to a winning endgame. So bishop pulls back to f7, trying to instigate a trade, which is good for white. So I'm not exactly sure why black did that. I trade in the center first because if rook takes, I can have this intermezzo here. Queen takes, and then I'm just up a rook. So I do the intermediate exchange first. Trade off my rooks. He takes back to the bishop. It really wouldn't have mattered either way. It wouldn't have mattered either way because if queen takes, bishop takes, and now it's just still a winning endgame. So it really wouldn't have mattered either way. Here, even though my back rank is protected by my rook, my thinking was get my queen out, get my rook patrolling this file, and then start trading off pawns. Start trading pieces and pawns. So what I did was I looked for the most aggressive square I could develop my queen to. Here, even though it's a check, it wouldn't make sense because it just gets blocked. I was thinking a5 to have this double attack. Bishop protects the center pawn, which is a perfectly fine move, but white's already winning so much, it really is kind of doesn't exactly matter what black does because there's no turning it around unless white blunders some significant amount. So I take a7. Whenever I'm in an endgame thinking of trying to kind of clear away the board with pawns, I'm always thinking I just want to make sure I don't get too greedy because you don't want to go pawn hunting and lose the game because you kind of let the opponent get a bunch of tempo and you lose sight of their attack that they're developing. But in this case, there's no back rank threats. There's no mating threats. So I can just kind of happily eat up all of black's pawns. Queen e7, kind of normal move, getting the queen to the center, but there's no back rank threat. I don't even need to waste a tempo getting a luft because there's just really no way that the queen is going to be attacking my back rank that I won't have time to deal with. h3 in the game, I kind of did make a luft, but I really, thinking back, didn't even need to do that because I was just completely winning. Go along. Queen here, looking to start eating up my pawns, but doesn't really matter because my queen can come back and start protecting my pawns and kind of instigating a trade of queens. That was my goal here, was just instigating a trade of queens, and then I would have a rook versus bishop endgame, and that's just completely winning. So I was thinking, how can I get my queen to a spot that would protect this pawn and let me try to develop some pawns that I can get a more solid pawn chain. So queen c5, f4, looking to maybe eventually push down my king side, get some attacks going with this bishop, or rather with this bishop. They can never push there. Maybe pushing there, trying to instigate a opening there, but I just stop it with f4. my queen patrols this diagonal, so even if he gives me a check and I trade, just go rook here, and there's nothing that's going to protect this pawn anymore. You can go there, but I can just instigate a trade with c3 in that scenario. King trying to move to the center. Normally good endgame ideas, but here black is so lost, there's really... It really doesn't make a difference. Queen f2, trying to instigate a trade. Pulls the queen back, trying to just say, no, I'm not interested. But it's a bit of... when you have an open board in endgame, and it's a queen and pawn endgame, even with the other pieces like the bishop and rook, the more open the board is, and the more in the center the king is, it's a bit hard to avoid the queen trade because there's just so many opportunities to try to align the queen with the king and kind of force the trade. So I go c3, just trying to get that pawn chain that I was talking about earlier, just to support that a bit better in the center. King h6. If he played really any other waiting move, I would have just forced the issue with the queen trade. And again, just trying to force the issue to say, hey, let's just trade queens. It's over. It's +5, so let's just kind of get this going. He goes back to e2. Doing this, it's a blunder. He's already down material, but just can always make it worse. So he blunders this check. King there. And then he doesn't have attack on b2, which would be looking at the rook, but there is just so many opportunities for checks and for me to kind of get out of danger that I just shore up that pawn chain. He does take b2, but again, it's +6. There's really nothing that I'm too worried about. I can just get my rook to the center, which is what I play in the game. Getting almost a bit greedy, but when it's this point in the game where the king has such poor safety, this light squared bishop isn't doing anything, my king is very safe, and I have a rook to a bishop. It's kind of an all roads lead to Rome type situation. So he takes. It's bait and 3. There's a couple different ways to finish this, and there's a couple endings that are more than mate and 3, but I just play rook e7 check, and he resigns because there's really nowhere else for him to go. If he goes here, it's going to be mate. He goes here. Go here. Oh, actually, I can go check there and mate. So it's kind of an all roads lead to Rome type situation in the end. I think the engine wanted me to go like queen check or something like that. Let's see. I know it did want rook e7 check. All right, so that was the quickest mate. So yeah, this was a 2 knights Italian, and just simple chess, developing pieces, and capitalizing on opponents' poor development. These two bishops are really not doing anything. It's even here, but they're just... This dark squared bishop is just not doing anything at all. It has some vision to the queen side, but there's not going to be much kingside play here at the immediate, and it's just not in a good spot. So slow development by my opponent, a poor decision to push pawns in front of the king, weakening king safety, and then this, I think, is kind of the crux of the position where g6, losing the bishop and weakening so many squares around the king. This king is just wide open, and it's pretty easy to just bully the black's position and force trades. This rook a e8 instead of rook f e8, just simply losing an exchange. That's just a pretty basic tactic. He can support his knight in the center, but really it doesn't matter. It's all lost here. And now just trading down to a winning endgame. Since I'm up, it's a rook to a bishop. And there's really not any mating chances here, but many chances here for black, but just playing safe chess, just trying to force the issue with the queen trade. And eventually he makes another blunder, and we can just secure a checkmate. So this is just a good game of a two knights Italian playing solid chess, solid developing, and even though the opponent played well, just getting down to a winning endgame through simple, safe, solid chess. All right, so we'll see you in the next one.